So what chord shapes were you talking about, Jim? I thought that was a
gonna
great
run- I was
idea.
gonna do like power chords and then sort of like blues, slides, like you just kind of that kind of stuff. Basically, rhythm playing. I've got a loop I'm going to play, like a blues shuffle, and I can play stuff over that and I can show you.
Okay.
And then, eventually get down to where we can talk about, soloing, which basically takes you to the pentatonic scale, which is, 5 notes. And if you actually go listen and think, oh, there must be, that seems so simple. And you listen to like I was listening to a bunch of Cream as I was driving up over the weekend. On the way up on the drive, it's like 9 hours of Cream and King Crimson, like big loud guitar stuff all the way up. And you listen to all those big long, like Spoonful and things like that, those long Cream jams, and he's doing nothing but pentatonic scales.
Yeah.
For like a 12-minute pentatonic scale solo. It's like there's 6 notes in it, and he's just like fills it up. So it's tremendously versatile. He doesn't even have grace notes in it, mostly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, it's pretty much straightforward.
No, you mean when you say grace, like transition notes?
No, it's like, where he's doing like, or he doesn't have the 6 in it. He doesn't go to the sharp, he doesn't go to the natural 3. He's doing a flat 3. He's playing that, and that's like the whole solo. I mean, Crossroads is that way, Well, he has the 6. He has a 6 in Crossroads. What he'll do sometimes is he'll jump down where he's using the natural 3rd. Sometimes he's doing the flat 3rd. He's doing bends up and down into them, to add, as Zappa would say, either put a little mustard on it or put a mustache on it. But that kind of instead of but still it's basically pentatonic scale. It's really surprisingly spare, and if you do that, especially if you're playing like an E or A, you can solo. I mean, you can play a blues song and you can solo,
Yes. So that would help me, Jim. Yeah, you put together a bunch of songs where, tell me which pentatonic scale, which I know them, but I should just practice them because I haven't really.
What I did is I just put the records on. I just played over them. I just played.
Yeah, but I need the records. I need to know which songs to do it that are long enough.
Well, I've been looking on YouTube. I found a thing where it's just blues shuffle in E, and it's like 10 minutes long of some shuffle. It's just
really? Okay.
Track. They're just backing tracks. So I don't mean you don't even see it, but if you can hear it,
That audio doesn't come through that great.
Can you hear that?
No, about every 3rd note.
You can't hear it?
No.
Shit,
oh yeah, no, I heard a little of it.
Can you hear it now?
Not really.
Yeah, it goes in and out. It doesn't stick.
It doesn't work.
Well, I'll show you what I mean. You got.
I think it's the inferior technology of Zoom.
It probably is.
I looked everything up. I tried to do it myself.
All right, guys, I got to do a quick turn to the chicken. Be right back.
Okay.
Dad, have you watched the Tina Turner documentary yet?
Yeah, it's terrific.
It's
really
good.
It's
Yeah.
boy, it's a dark tale. Actually, there's a bunch of blowback coming now saying it's like, yes, she's in the Hall of Fame as part of the Ike and Tina Turner review, but she should be in there as a solo.
Yeah.
And they're right. She should totally be in there as a solo.
She should be in there as a solo, probably more so than she should be in there as Ike and Tina.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
Tom, have you seen the Tina Turner documentary yet?
I heard about it and I read about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's really
It's formidable. It's great.
She was smoking.
Ah, yeah.
And she's, and it's like contemporary. I mean, they're interviewing her now. It's like in 2018.
They made it last year.
Yeah, like last year, just before COVID.
Yeah.
Hey man, she still looks great. I mean, she's in her 80s, I guess, probably. But she's retired. I guess this is going to be like the last public appearance she's going to do and all the rest of that. But she still looks great. I mean, she looks better than Joni Mitchell does, frankly. But she probably worked harder than Joni Mitchell did in terms of her physical well-being.
Yeah.
She's dancing and exercising all the time, and not smoking. Like the way Joni Mitchell. I mean, Joni Mitchell's still, I think, a chain smoker.
Oh, really? You can't do that. I didn't know that.
She was for years a chain smoker. Oh, terrible. But she's got some sort of weird degenerative disease, Joni Mitchell, I think. She's not playing. There will be no more Joni Mitchell recordings. She's not doing that anymore. She can't play anymore or any of that, which is too bad. That'll be this a handful of people coming up that will be like major like losses. Tina will be one of them. Joni will be like, that'll be earth shattering. That'll be like a Dylan scaled, passing.
Oh, not that big, but big.
Oh yeah, she's about that big. I mean, somebody asked her one time, who do you compare yourself to? Well, in terms of lyrics, I would say Dylan. In terms of music, I would say Miles Davis. And people can make a case for that. I mean, she's very, very formidable, and probably across her career, arguably more consistent than Dylan has been. Although Dylan is like infinitely more productive.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't watched, since we're just on this topic, the PBS Ken Burns Country Music, like 9-part documentary.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I've seen the pieces of it.
Okay, so it starts off really slow because it's a Ken Burns documentary, so you got to like work your way through the first couple episodes. Yeah. But the last 3 are fantastic.
Really?
I mean, yeah, the last 3 are super duper interesting because they talk a lot about, they do a lot of like the traditional stuff, but they talk a ton about Bob Dylan and
Johnny Cash. I mean, the whole Dylan.
Oh, well, Johnny Cash is like.
But the Dylan Johnny Cash connection.
They talk about that a ton.
And the Dylan George Harrison connection.
They don't talk about that.
There's a bunch of that sort of stuff that's in it. Yeah, I haven't seen most of it because it's all through KT and I don't want to give them my money.
It may be worth it to give them like a smidge of money just so you can watch the documentary. But the last 3 episodes are really, really good.
I'll bet it's on YouTube, Port. Don't you think it's on YouTube?
Probably.
I've looked everywhere. It's not.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, you can't find it.
Certainly, it'll be out on.
You have to go through a PBS affiliate to get it. It will be eventually, certainly.
Eventually, it will. Yeah, it was very, very good.
No, it's supposed to be
and just like suffer through the first couple episodes and then get to the good stuff.
Oh, who's the guy that's the who gave was a major source of that stuff is Marty Stewart.
Well, he's all over it. I mean, he's interviewed in every. He's interviewed all over it.
You know who he is, Marty Stewart?
I don't.
I didn't either.
He's a country player. He's got the big hair. He always wears like the nudie suits and all the rest of that stuff. He started out as a kid. He's probably about Paul's age, something like that. He's in his mid 60s probably. He's been around for 1,000 years. He started as a kid. It's like he was like 15 or 16 and he went out on the road with Lester Flatt as a mandolin player.
He was 13.
13.
Okay,
13.
Can you imagine what his life was like?
And then, at one point, he married Johnny Cash's daughter. He was married to Carlene, I think.
Well, maybe, but he was married to another country music star, but like he played in Lester Flatt's band.
Right.
He played in Johnny Cash's band.
Right. Yeah, it's like Johnny Cash is his father-in-law. I mean, it's like how.
He's.
But he's also got a collection of.
Here's Grace.
Hey.
Wait, I'm going back to the barbecue. I'll be back in a minute.
All the country music. So we're talking about Marty Stewart. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a country player, but he's sort of like become the unofficial historian of country music. He's like a major supplier to the Hall of Fame, and he has a personal collection of stuff. It's like 80 or 90,000 pieces. Like all of the nudie suits from people like Porter Wagner, people like that. He's got Johnny Cash's guitars. He's got posters. He's got recordings. He's got like all kinds of stuff. And we're talking about the Ken Burns country music documentary.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen it, it's great. I just finished it over the weekend, and it's like 9 episodes.
What is it called?
It's called Country Music, and it's a It's a Ken Burns documentary. It's on PBS.
It's a PBS thing. Oh, PBS, you can
But
find
I think it's 8 or 9 episodes.
Yeah, I think it's
And it's great. It was great. It's slow at the beginning. It's real slow at the beginning, but it's really interesting. And the music is fabulous.
If you haven't seen the Ken Burns blues one, that's spectacular. Oh, and I mean the blues one makes the case that the greatest musician of the 20th century was Louis Armstrong, and it's a pretty strong case for it. So yeah, it's also have you seen the Ken Burns jazz one, Tom?
I did. Again, not all of it, but
that's worth starting from the beginning and working your way through it. It's and the beginning is a little slow, and then they always get a little thin toward like the last episode. Like, you get up to like the jazz fusion stuff in the 70s and 80s, and it's like it doesn't give it quite the. I
bet I've never quite enjoyed that music that much.
It's bits of it. I mean, it's like the Mahavishnu Orchestra is kind of heavy lifting, but some of the other stuff is really good. I mean,
some of it is.
It's like math rock. I mean, some of it is things like the Dixie Dregs and people like a lot of it's very sort of chop oriented. But there's
correct.
There's a lot underneath it. It's not easy listening music. Like
I don't.
Like, nor is Charlie Parker for that matter.
Right, but it's more virtuosity as it is, music theory and harmony
that virtuosity is really reflecting harmony and
I know that, but not in a way that
you can't hear it go by.
Yeah, not for a normal person,
No, it's not, as you say, it's not easy listening music. It is not that, but it's really good. Grace, what have you been up to?
I missed last week. I've not a whole lot. I just saw Greer in DC actually. She's doing well. She actually just went down to South Carolina yesterday. She went to South Carolina to get a vaccination. So I'm happy for her.
Greer is Grace's twin sister.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So we saw some pictures of your mom's new kitchen.
I know, it looks great.
The crap. Yeah, it's beautiful. She's great. Emily's doing like a complete gut job of the first floor of her house.
Oh, did we send you our kitchen, Jim? Anne Marie was pretty proud of it.
I haven't seen photos of it. You need to see them.
Oh, we have to do it. It looks like house beautiful.
Yeah, I showed mom and dad all the pictures of our living room that Missy had been working on it, which is again like house beautiful too. So yes, people. Yeah, having a nice kitchen is a nice thing. So
I cannot wait to get there. I'll be down there in 2 weeks for
the wedding.
Yeah, some family time.
We'll see you down there.
Cool. Yeah, I just actually was meaning to tell you last week I popped the high E on my Telecaster, so I will be changing the strings this week sometime.
Well, do you have a replacement set of strings yet?
No, I've been dragging my feet. Maybe if I can order them. Sorry.
Yeah, you get them on Google. You go where I order my stuff is on Sweetwater.
Sweetwater is great.
They're really good. They're really reliable. They, if anything goes wrong, they replace it, and they throw a bag of candy in your box when you get the order.
Plus, they call you every order you make, Grace. Somebody calls you and wants to make sure that you're happy.
Yeah, it's Sweetwater.
Yeah, I ordered like a guitar strap from them a month ago, and I got a call. I was like, wow, you're so
really good. Their customer service is great, and I love now they're little like baggies that they pre-do because they have so much shipping. But originally, when I first started ordering from them a while ago, you get the box, and they would just grab a handful of candy out of a bowl and throw it in the box when they're shipping stuff out, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
And things like good stuff like bit of honeys, like not really junky stuff. Not even just like Tootsie Rolls, but bit of honey. I mean, that's pretty okay.
Yeah, that's like.
Now they're thinking.
Yeah.
But they're good. So what I was doing, I would get.
It was better than I thought.
Where I have strings.
Elixir, right?
These.
Mm-hmm.
These are
I can't see, Jim. What are they?
These are oops, it's upside down. That would help. These are Ernie Ball Super Slinkies. These are 9 to 42. But you get the pink package. And this is what if I'm not going to use elixirs, I don't use elixirs on electrics. I do on acoustics sometimes. What I usually use on my guitar, if I'm playing electric, I use these New York XLs. Not this
D'Addario?
It's nice. They're D'Addario, but they're New York XLs, which is sort of their upper, better version of it. And I use 9. I always play 9s on my electric. But these last a long time. They seem more durable. They seem to stay in tune better. But those the Super Slinkies are great. I've been using those for decades. what I look for in a string for electric, what I look for a string, yeah, mostly electric, is I look for like solid nickel. They'll have nickel, solid nickel, and they'll have nickel wrapped or nickel plated, and then they'll have stainless steel. And it's like if you're playing like metal and things like that, then stainless steel is better because it's really, really bitey. Nickel seems to have a slightly warmer tone to it, and you got all the bitey on a Telecaster you need, so a little warmth is not a bad thing. Telecasters can be pretty shrill. But on the other hand, Telecaster, I love Telecasters because
the shape of it is great.
Well, it's the fact that he invented it in like 1949.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And then they turned around in 53 and invented this, which is pretty much the perfect instrument. I mean, it's just they've done nothing since 1953 to improve this guitar to make it any better than it is. I mean, there's little twists, but essentially he hit it out of the park right there.
The idea that you can just screw the neck onto it.
That was his breakthrough. That he was a matter of fact, he didn't even play guitar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, he's a machine shop guy.
Oh,
yes,
so
Leo Fender did not play guitar.
Ryan bought me some. You can buy. I don't know where he got them for Christmas. That you get like the original patent drawings for them.
Oh, yeah, very cool.
They're really cool. So I have them on. They're in the basement. It was like Dad with the bomber art. I couldn't put it up in the living room, but I do have them on the wall.
Eventually, you'll get them up there. But yeah, Leo Fender was like, he's Thomas Edison. I mean, he's like
he really was. All right, back to the grill. Be right back.
Okay. Thomas grilling chicken. So I was going to talk about chord shapes and things like that, unless you have something that you were particularly interested in talking about.
No, it's been a busy week. I think I have a very small goal to go back into drop D tuning, but I'll get into that next week maybe.
Okay, well, let's think of some songs that use drop D a lot. I mean, if you do a lot of like this kind of like, there's a lot of those kinds of things that are actually in D, and they use their drop tuning. There's a guy named Jorma Kalkinen he was the guitar player for Jefferson Airplane. He does this wonderful. It's like the guy who was sort of like the guy way back was this guy, Mississippi John Hurt, old black blues player, and he was the guy that and he played it with a thumb pick. There's a style of playing like that where you play with a thumb pick, and it's all about hitting those with your thumb, and then all the other melody stuff is with your other fingers, usually bare. Some people play there with a bare thumb, but that particular style you really need a pick to really get that attack. And I was reading, a bio of him, and he's talking about that style because he's one of the guys that's really noted for keeping that style alive. And he said, what you do is you get to the point where that thing is it's automatic. And then that happens no matter what you're doing with your other fingers. That just keeps going. So it's a little like the idea of playing piano, where what your left hand is doing and your right hand are completely different, and you just have to be able to split your brain to be able to do that. So I've never been able to get really, really good at it. My friend Dave Kinney, a guy I used to play with years ago, was a killer at that. He'd do that stuff all day long. But if you can do that, it's almost like a ragtime style of playing.
Right, like a Scott Joplin.
You can do that sort of stuff with it, but it's a wonderful style, and drop D is great for that. It's also great for heavy metal, which is good. So
yeah. I mean, would that kind of like picking fall into the style of a lead guitar or more of a rhythm guitar, or something else entirely?
Yeah. Well, you mean sort of like a hybrid lead rhythm kind of thing?
Yeah, because it seemed like what you were doing was very constant and
Oh, in terms
groovy.
of that kind of
Yeah.
that's more of an acoustic guitar thing than it is an electric guitar thing.
Oh, yeah.
But that idea of using where you're not using that drop D in sort of a chordal way, you're using the drop D as kind of just so that you can get to the notes that you want to get at. You know, that thing I was showing you last time where I'd used I don't know if you were here, where he's using the capo that, you know, you can put the capo on.
Yeah.
So
I
it
think
covers
I've-
all that. And you can do like fake drop D.
Mhm.
That kind of thing. That's more of a finger picking sort of solo sort of thing. And it's really effective for that because it enables you to sort of break the guitar into two parts and play that sort of, you know, that sort of rhythm.
So Jim, my issue with that kind of stuff is like, it's already hard enough.
Well, yeah, except what you can do with drop D is you can do other things. Like if you want to play, well, Neil Young uses drop D a lot, actually. So
Yeah, he did.
Cinnamon Girl is a drop D.
Cinnamon Girl is a great song.
It's a tremendous song. And it's really, you know, he does a lot of, like some of the that's a drop D. So a bunch of his sort of early middle period on electric are that way. And it's really effective for that. And then there's all the, you know, all that kind of metal stuff where they'll use drop D just so they can play songs in D rather than E to make them bassier, so it sounds like there's more tonnage going on, you know. Or what they'll do is they'll take a guitar, tune it down a half step or a whole step to where it's tuned like that would be a D sharp or even a D across the strings, and then do a drop tuning. So you're down actually in C. It's a drop C tuning, and then you turn like your amplifier up to 11 and just rage. You know, just what Jeremy loves. You know, it just sounds, you know, it sounds like a mind collapse.
Yeah, it's got to get buzzy though, doesn't it? You know,
well, no. You depending on the. I mean, some of those amps are set up in a way that the bass is really tight, but it's just it becomes more percussive than bassy, Tom. Actually, you know, it's just it's so much. That kind of hammering, chopping kind of thing, and it's like somebody hitting you in the forehead with a hammer. You know, it's pounding.
All right, back to the grill. Be right back.
And if you dig that kind of thing, that's great. So yeah, we should, you know, we can fish around for some songs that are in drop D, and then we can talk about different ways of approaching that. What I was going to talk about today a little bit is some chord shapes that you might use if you not so much for playing by yourself, but for accompanying people, to where you want to play something that's going to complement what somebody else is playing. And the ones that if you're going to play like the thing I was going to start talking about is do you guys know what if I said play a bar chord, what I mean, what is a bar chord? You know, Grace, you were doing some of that, and Courtney, you've done some of that too. So, you know.
Yeah, my informal definition would be anytime my index finger is on top, pressing down the note, the strings, or is it something else?
Yeah.
Let me just interject on chicken.
Yeah.
Cook it slow, cook it for an hour. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Because for every extra 10 minutes, it decreases the likelihood of you going to the hospital for some tropical disease by 5 or 6%. So yeah, that's good advice. That's why I rarely.
What are you making?
I'm barbecuing chicken out here.
Okay, yeah, definitely cook that all the way through.
Yeah. Well, you know, no, we're here with Amory's stepdad, and we're down in Florida, so as you can see. So I'm doing my low and slow chicken. I cook it thoroughly. I cook it for an hour.
Yeah.
If you see anything red inside when you cut it up, just put it back on the grill.
Yeah.
You won't, not after an hour.
I just had New York City barbecue for the first time last weekend. We went to Hometown Barbecue in Red Hook. You guys have heard of it? Yeah, pretty famous apparently, but we waited for like an hour and got some brisket.
Where's Red Hook? Red Hook, New York?
It's in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's Brooklyn, kind of southwest, I'd say, right in the flooding zone.
Yes,
So
it's very much in the flooding zone.
yeah, I believe the owner of this place was pretty much ready to open or had been open for a month, and then Sandy came through and made him kind of restart from the bottom.
Red Hook got wiped out pretty much. Red Hook was
Yeah.
gone. But anyway,
Mhm.
with bar chords, I mean, what's nice about those, and it's kind of a, you know, more of a strumming kind of thing. You know, you can walk all the way up and down the neck. So it's really good for playing, well, it's great for playing surf music, as it turns out, but it's basically what it lets you do, and Grace, you're sort of on the right track, is it lets you kind of play cowboy chords all the way up and down the neck, which is great. So you can, it's the songs in B flat, it's like, okay, well, shoot me, but all right, I can play that. So I can do that with bar chords. What are power chords then? If I say power chords, what am I talking about?
I feel like you only have like 2 fingers on the neck with the power chord. I don't know.
Actually, yeah, you're right, pretty much. With a power chord, what you're doing is basically, you're playing 1s and 5s. You're playing, if you're playing,
You're leaving the third out.
Yeah, you're playing it in E. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is you're playing power chords. Typically, you're playing them pretty aggressively. You're probably playing them fairly loudly. There's probably a considerable amount of distortion in there. And what happens with the distortion, and the more it does this, is that as you have a lot of distortion, where you get a lot of that is up in the upper harmonics. And when you start playing, you play the third or like, you know, things like sevenths and other kind of out notes within the chord, the harmonics on the 1s and 5s, you know, the E and the B line up fine, and you don't get any of that harshness. With other notes within there, they start to, you actually can sort of hear them wobble. I mean, you actually hear it, they start to clash. So by eliminating those, that's where you get all that power. So using stuff like that, if you're playing along with somebody, like playing, you know, a blues song or something, that works. Or you can do, the other thing for that would be if you're doing like the, you know, and I'm not playing any of the other notes. I'm sort of staying down those bass note ranges. And just like that, you can play any blues song ever written, pretty much. You know, which is, it's, you know, if you can play those guys, if you can play up here, you can play, I mean, that's the whole world of Chuck Berry is open up to you. I mean, all those kinds of things. I mean, that's Johnny B. Good. What I do when I do that, though, is I'll generally palm mute so much so you don't have. What I could do then, if I palm muting, I can hit it harder and yet not have it ring, so it's more percussive. When I'm playing that sort of stuff.
It's cutting out, Jim.
Better?
Yeah, it's in and out.
Is it disappearing?
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
Let me do this.
While you do that, back to the grill. Be right back.
When I'm playing that sort of style, better?
Yeah.
You can hear where I'm palm muting it, and it always goes, you know, it becomes almost a percussive thing, and it's just more clean that way. So I can attack that string a little harder, but because I'm not, you know, you hear the difference? It lays, it's not so aggressive and lets you play that. And you can play that almost anywhere if you. And it's the same thing when you go to the, you have the 5 chord, which is basically an A formation.
So what would be really helpful for bar chords? Because this is where I start to get all like janky about bar chords. Is knowing what the essentially the chord position is and how you move it up and down the neck and what chords that equates to.
Okay, good.
That's pretty. There's only like 3 or 4 shapes.
There's only 4 shapes.
Well, so that's where I get all confused because like they're all real close together.
Well,
but they're all, the guitar is tuned in fourths, so that will help you.
Except for the B string, so let's not go down that road.
All right.
Yeah, the thing is when
Let me get my guitar. I want to contribute to this too if I can.
Yeah. If you're playing those kind of bar chords, they're almost always, especially if you're just kind of like percussive playing, you're not playing that kind of stuff. You'll go up here. It's almost an A formation, or it's an E formation or an A formation.
When you say A and E formation, like, do you mean, you know, how?
Basically like this. Or an A.
Yeah.
So if I go up here. Follow? Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me try it. Let me show you one time. So what I'm doing is, Courtney, hang in there. You with me? Okay. So there's my E chord.
Yeah.
There's my A chord. And what makes that work easily is that I've got the 1 and the 5. I've got the E and the B. And if I do the A chord, those work really easily for this kind of up and down the neck. The other ones, you see people play, you see John Lennon do one of those things, but I don't use them very much. If I'm going to play something in a G formation or the C formation, I'm more doing sort of things up in the top strings. I'm not using the bottom strings to drive. I'm not doing a rhythm thing. You know, so if I'm doing this, that's an E formation, an A formation, but it's in E to A. So if I go up 3 frets to G, it's still, so that's an E formation, that's an A formation, that's an E formation. Okay, follow?
So can I give Courtney a hint here? Can I give Courtster a hint? So Court, here's what I would remember. If you just start on your E string, okay, you go E, F, F sharp, G. Okay, so you need to know where the G is and the E, your low E string. Okay, then you go to A. Okay, then you go to B. And then you need to remember that in your key of C, that between B and C is only a half step. So here's C. Okay, then you go to D. And then you go back to E. Okay, if you just learn that, then you will know, let's just start in the key of A, which you know is on your 5th fret. That's your 1 chord. Okay, this chord is basically just the A shape. Okay, and your A shape moved up, because this would be a D chord. And so D chord moving up just 2 steps will go to your E. So that's your 1, 4, 5.
The 2 things you got to know, Court, is that if you're doing a 1, 4, 5, which is what we're talking about, 1, 4, 5, the E, the 4 of the 1 of the 1, 4, 5 in the key of E is the A, and the 5 is the B, right? 1, 4, 5, E, A, B. So you have to know that. You have to know that when you go, if you're in a particular spot here and you go to the A formation, that's the 4 of whatever that is. So if you're starting here in A, that's a D. So you have to know.
Yeah, stop there and emphasize that, Jim. That's critically important what he's saying.
You have to know what the 4 and the 5 of a particular note is, okay? Which you sort of get after a while. The other thing you got to know is you got to know where where that root note is on the neck. This is the thing that Jake was talking about that he was struggling with also. You have to know that you go up on the E string 3 notes, and that's a G. You have to know that's a B. You have to A, and you have to know that that's a B. And for now, you maybe can is like, okay, I'm gonna go. Okay, that's an A. Okay, that's where I am now. I'm gonna.
Now you got to memorize that.
You eventually you internalize that. You don't even think about it.
But right for now, you memorize that. That would be really worth
You have
it.
to know if you're gonna play something. You know, if you're gonna play something here. Okay, go to the. You know, jump from any chord you're playing. There's a C. Play the bar chord. You have to know that that's the C. That. So. You have to know where the bar chords that represent the chords you're playing in the cowboy chords down below. And that's just a matter of knowing. I mean, so you get to the, you're not going to get to the point, and you don't need to get to the point for a good while of, if I play, you know, that note on the G string, what note is that? And even I have to occasionally stop and go, oh, that's a G, that's a D sharp, you know, but I don't know that instinctively, but I know where the chord shapes are and where it takes me. And if you know where you are on the E string, like you said, Grace, you know, it's when you got your finger on the E string, that's a bar chord. And you just know, well, what's the note you're starting on? If you're on that 3rd fret, that's a G. And then you eventually know what the notes of the G chord are. And if you're going to go, the E and the A frame, the E and the A formation, that's your 1/4. And then you just go, that's your 1/4/5. And that enables you to play almost anything. And the fact is, with electric, Grace, you really don't stay. I mean, some people do, but if you're playing more rock oriented stuff, you're rarely playing those kind of cowboy chords, because what happens with an electric guitar when you're playing those kinds of chords, you've got open strings in there and you can't effectively mute them.
Yeah.
The problem with open strings is that they're just ringing out there. So when the thing that is good about a bar chord or power chords is that everything is under your fingers, so you can control by the tension of your fingers how hard you press, whether you mute them or not. So, and you can do that really effectively up the neck. If you're down here, I can't mute anything down here that's an open string, and that is more of a challenge with an electric, especially if you're playing at volume, because they'll just howl after a while. So what I like about playing these kinds of things is the percussiveness of the muting with your right hand and your left hand both, and the fact that you have control of that because everything's under your hand. Now I've got much better control of my dynamics, and that makes you a much better accompanist than if you're just banging away on a thing like this. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
The dynamics is a huge piece of playing with other people and doing it effectively. You know, you don't have to play a lot. You know, it's like when it's your turn, grab that chord and bang away. But when it's not, you know, you have to sort of lighten up and play back behind them. And it's like if I'm just muting with my left hand, you've got really great control that way. And what you can do is, because you're muting here, you can bang away as hard as you want here and still control your volume, your dynamics with your left hand. You know. You know, you can, you know, even to a point where that becomes a percussion instrument.
I feel like it also, power chords help make me envision the act of transposing or key changes more easily too, because everything stays the same in terms of relativity.
Exactly right. And that's part of that, you know, 1/4/5 thing. That, you know, if you're doing, you know, it's a 1/4/5 that you're playing in G, and someone is like, okay, we're modulating a half step, which is always up. You know, that's not saying. It's sort of the physical equivalent of what we were talking about with the Nashville charts, where your starting place changes, but the relationship of everything else is exactly the same. Again, that's really the value of what enables you to do that with bar chords and things like that. Now, we're operating at a very simple sort of rock and roll, either major chord or minor chord kind of bang it. We're not talking about like jazz chords and things like that. That's a whole nother level of that. But the principle is still the same. That what matters is the flexibility of going up and down the neck and changing keys anytime you want, as long as you have the relationship and the changes right. And the ability to control your dynamics with both your right hand and your left hand makes it, you're now playing with a much more elevated level of sophistication and finesse than you are when you're just banging away like this. Not that there's not a place for that, but when you're up here doing that, you're a much better accompanist. And there's, we're going to run out of time before very long, but there's a whole array of other things.
Yeah, I'm running short too because I got a grill that's, by the way, I'm dealing with an excellent grill, guys. Just, it's really good. I'm dealing with an excellent grill down here.
Well, and that's what.
Wait, is this sarcasm? Or are you trying to be like, okay? I didn't know if you were like on a Zoom call. I need to like give him a hidden message.
No. I'm dealing with this Weber Monster Grill, which is like raging away to my left. It's like great.
Yeah, some of those things. I mean, a friend of ours, Susan, had a brand new one of those gas grills with a reflector plate and all the rest of this. And this first time we were there, she was making like lamb chops or something like that, and put them on there and just immolated them.
They're great.
They vaporized because this thing's threw off so much heat.
All right, so I'm at 7:45, so I'm going to transition out, guys, because I got cooking to do.
Okay, catch me later. Take care.
Yeah,
we left everybody.
Bye, Uncle Tom.
So once you start thinking in terms of what I'm going to play along with somebody, as opposed to what's happening is we're not playing the song. The song is just, we're all going to play the chords and everybody's going to yell along, and isn't it great we played the song together. If you're going to play the music, then you're starting to think of, well, if there's two people, then who's accompanying who and how are you melding together? So you start playing pieces, of course, like I was going to play you. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this. I hope you can. Bob Marley, One Love. Listen to what he's doing with his guitar. He's in B. So it's like he's like as spare as anything. It's almost like it's like he's almost using the guitar as a percussion instrument. You know? It's the same thing you hear with mandolin players where they do that, what they call the chop, where it's like, I need more music stands, more guitar stands. When a mandolin's playing, and it's like that kind of, the mandolin is essentially a snare drum with strings on it. That's the percussion instrument in a bluegrass band. Is that because they're not playing chords, they're not even playing whole chords. A lot of times, just playing. They're playing power chords on a mandolin. Ones and fives. So that's when we start talking about the transition from learning your instrument to actually playing music with people. We transition, I think, from playing the song to playing the music that the song embodies with people, so that when we play together, the pieces that we play sort of meld. It's sort of like singing with people, and people sing harmony. They don't just everybody just doesn't sing the melody. People sing harmony. Essentially, it's that same principle. It's not that you're doing different parts that are in harmony, but you're doing different parts that are serving different roles within the song. Make sense? And that to me is a lot of the joy of playing this kind of stuff, of like playing with people, is that It's like, Courtney, you've seen the Frigidaires, this big band, 7 people in the band. There's 3 lead guitar players and a rhythm guitar player. So, and we've never rehearsed. So there's no plan about what anybody's going to be playing. They just call a song and we play it. So what you have to do is you just watch the other 2 guys that are playing lead and say, what are they playing? Okay, I'll play something other than that. So what you have is different people let you play like spare, you leave a lot of air and let them fill up their spot and I'll fill up my spot, but you don't clash on top of each other because you got to listen. And when you do that and you're successful at it, it's absolutely magical. It's absolutely magic.
Mhm.
So that's where I hope we're going with some of this stuff, and where I hope you have a chance to be playing, thanks COVID, we can't do this, but once you start getting to play with people again, that's how you start approaching it. Is like, you learn the song and now I know the song, now let's play the music. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I know the chords now, I know how it goes. Now let's play it together, and I won't play that chord, or I'll play a different voicing of that chord, or I'll put a capo on and I'll play it up here, or I'll play more of the power chord driving stuff and you play the little noodly stuff on top, or we'll play some blues and I'll play a solo. We'll talk about that next time, because that's pretty simple too. We're talking about just the pentatonic scale.
Mhm.
That's so much of playing, I think, ironically, is not playing. Sometimes the most important note is the note you don't play, because that means the next one is going to be more important, or it's going to make the note that the other guy plays more important, and then you'll have your chance later on to play the important note. So it's ear training is a really important piece of this, and this is great because we get to talk about all this kind of stuff. But what really makes it work is when you get to do that with people and you play something and it's like, you play some clam and you go, oh, and now I understand why that's a big clam. It's like, because, oh, that really, bollocks up that entire chord, or that really just like, next time it comes around, you play something different, and it's just, you learn from those kinds of things as you do it. So it's experience as much as anything. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's one of the things that these lessons have been helping with, at least for me, because I pick up the guitar and I'm like, okay, there are 20 something frets and 6 strings, and that's intimidating when you multiply them.
yeah.
But then like you start to, I think, find comfort in, okay, things can be relative. The notes repeat at the 12th fret or whatever it is. And
Yeah,
so
there's
you
really,
just keep subdividing what you have to know.
and as you start listening to the stuff more, what you realize is that, yeah, that's all true, but there's only 12 notes, and there's not only are there, there's only one E, there's an E, but there's 4 E's on the neck of the guitar. But even at that, then you start thinking about, well, what if I slide up into that E? What if I slide down into that E? What if I bend up into that E? What if I bend down into that E? So once we get past playing the note and we start playing the music, you start to listen to what are the inflections on that note when somebody plays it? Why does somebody play a solo and it sounds really mechanical and horrible, and somebody else plays exactly the same solo, but it sounds so lyrical? And it's because of those little nuances of how you bend into the notes, or you push the tempo a little bit and get in there a little early, or you sort of lay back and come in just a little bit behind the beat. So that sort of fluidity is those are the things that are infinite. The number of notes, that's a finite thing. The number of places you can get an E on a guitar neck is kind of finite. Even if you start throwing in things like harmonics and stuff, it's still finite. But the things you can do in terms of finessing that note, framing that note, introducing that note in terms of sliding into it or bending down to it, or playing it on a harmonic, or playing it, that note, at the bottom of the net, or playing, you can't really hear this, but, playing, I could play this note. That's the same note. What's that? it's the same G. It's the same, it's literally the same G, but now you can hear the timbre of it. You play that on the E string and it's really thin sounding. You go up here on the B string, it's a little richer. You go up here to the G string, it's a little richer. You get up here, you can really hear the change when you get to the D string, and the D's a wound string, and it's like that. They sound surprisingly different, and that doesn't affect the melody. The melody is the same note in that scale, but how it lays in the scale and the effect it has is sort of like saying the same words but whispering them or yelling them. You know what I mean? That's kind of, as you become more accustomed to what lands where under your hands, and you can predict that's the note that I want to play, and play the note that you want to play, which is, I do that sort of haphazardly playing steel. I'm still like I'm sort of playing steel where you guys are and playing guitar. It's like, I know where all the notes are, but I don't always get to them as fast as I wish I did, But what happens is once you get to that point where you can reliably get to the note that you want to get to and play it in time the way you plan to, then you start screwing around with it. Then you start what if I bend up into it? What if I bend down into it? What if I slide up to it? What if I, if I'm doing a bunch of sort of sliding up, I said glistening up to, what if I don't do that? What if I instead of playing the note, letting it ring, what if I do instead of going bang, bang, bang? So you can do an infinite number of things. And then once you have an electric guitar, what if I use that fuzz box instead of this other one? What if I put, a chorus pedal on it? What if I use an echo on it? What if I, so we get past playing the song and we make the music, and the music that's why you can hear different people do the same song, and it's just like, what a refreshing new version of that. And it's exactly the same song, but the timbre of their voice is different, or they played it, in a different key, or whatever it might be. It just brings a refreshing perspective to it because they added something fresh to it that was maybe not something you expected. That's kind of where we're going with this kind of stuff, is that, if you listen, find a song that that people have played different versions of, and listen to two versions of the same song, and not that one is a better version than the other, but which one accomplishes what they wanted to accomplish better than the other one did, and you can start to hear those kinds of decisions that they're making. This is why I love listening to the box set stuff where they have the Beatles anthology stuff and those kinds of box sets that are all coming out now, where you hear the demo versions of songs and how the arrangements evolve over time. That's fascinating to me because you can hear them doing exactly this. You can hear them trying stuff out and going, yeah, that's a fully formed song. That's a really crappy arrangement. Let's not use that instrument. Let's use this instrument. Let's not play that up here. Let's play it down here. Let's, those sorts of things. The more you do it, the more you're testing those kinds of things. And the more you do it, you sort of know what works and what doesn't work. You do fall into, I guess, cliches maybe, or something like that. You fall in familiar territory. When I play stuff, it sounds pretty familiar. I mean, it sounds like me. What's been so great about doing all this ambient stuff is that that's way outside what I usually play. So it sounds really unfamiliar because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So that's kind of a nice thing to bring into that, vocabulary that I have. So, yeah, that's why you taking on electric is kind of a cool thing, Grace, because it's a whole nother instrument. It's a whole different way of playing because it brings a different character to it. It's like the difference between a clarinet and a saxophone. A soprano saxophone and a clarinet are pretty much the same scale, but they sure sound different because they're different kinds of instruments. You choose one for one reason and one for another reason. So that's kind of where we'll end up, hopefully.
Yeah, that reminds me of this band from Austin. They're called Spoon, and they've been around for a while. But Britt, the guitarist, will say sometimes we're writing the song, we're trying to figure out the arrangement, And then he said in the interview, we'll arrange a song as if it's Elvis Costello, but it's still going to be a spoon song.
Yeah,
But just doing the
exactly.
thought experiment of like, how would Elvis Costello do this arrangement?
No, I do that
Instead-
myself. And when I'm writing songs, I do that kind of thing. You know, I say, I want this to be sort of a Tom Petty song. I want this to be a bird song. Or I want this to be a whatever song. And it's your own song. And even, you know, some of what does that is like, you know, if you want it to sound like a Beatles song or a bird song, all you got to do is put a Rickenbacker 12 string in it and you're 90% there, because that's the signature sound. But there's, yeah, that sort of thought experiment is really, you know, that's the kind of thing that Joni Mitchell or David Crosby or people like that that go way deep in alternate tunings do. Is like, you know, you tune the string sort of randomly, and then your hands go to the familiar places, but the notes aren't familiar. And it's like you sort of have to, okay, where does this take me? One of the things I love about, you know, Richard Thompson, you know him? He's a British guitar player. He's an interesting guy. He's sort of out of that British.
You'll know him if you hear him, Grace.
You'll know him if you hear. He's got this neo. He's got notes.
Yeah, you'll hear you'll hear him and you'll be like, oh, I know him. You've heard him before, sure.
He's from that sort of late 60s, early 70s Fairport Convention neo-folk British kind of tradition. And he plays, talk about somebody who plays a lot of drop D tuning on his acoustic, and he plays a lot of dadgad on his acoustic. Which is a lot of the British guys do. And he's a spectacularly good acoustic guitar player, you know, in terms of solo guitar, playing that sort of folkish kind of British sort of folk kind of thing. But then he plays electric as well. And he's equally adept at playing electric, but he plays electric nothing like he plays acoustic. He plays this sort of this really clean strat kind of guy. But what he'll do when he's playing electric, there's a lot of dissonance in his playing. And what it sounds like to me is it's almost as if he's playing a solo and he sort of throws himself off the cliff, and just sort of where his fingers land, that's where he is. And that becomes the starting point for him to find a way melodically and harmonically back to the tonal center of the song. And on his way, there's a lot of sort of unexpected dissonant side notes that are sort of in there, which are delightful and fascinating. But there's an unpredictable element to his playing that I find just wonderful. And it feels like he's just like, it's like he's constantly trying to trick himself into playing something that he didn't expect to play. You know what I mean? So in terms of his solos, he's the least predictable soloist I've ever heard in playing electric guitar, because I don't think he knows where he's starting from. Hi, Annie.
Hello.
I got the girls here.
Hey.
What's up? I can't see you. I can only see part of you. Hey.
Hello.
What did you play tonight?
We were playing some blues. Tom was there. Tom's cooking chicken. So he just bailed us in Florida. And then we've just been talking about, you know, just playing, you know, learning the song and then playing the music once you know the song. And talking about styles.
And bar chords.
And a lot of bar chords. But it's about, you know, chord forms and different set voicings and how you use those as part of your color palette to accompany somebody else, rather than everybody banging away in the same chords.
It sounds very hard.
Easy, yeah.
Yeah, easy peasy. Yeah.
So, Grace, are you playing acoustic?
I'm playing acoustic. I just popped my. I do have an electric. I just popped the string, so I need to replace it.
Yeah. Make sure it's tuned to pitch. Yeah, if it is. Actually, are you bringing you're flying down or driving down next week?
I'm flying. Yeah.
If you wanted to bring your guitar down, I will set it up for you.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I have 14 days. One of my friends from college is we're gonna hook up, and he has an extra Stratocaster, so I will be playing with somebody soon.
Wonderful. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Good. That's great. That's what we need. Court, you need to find somebody to play with too.
I know.
So tell Jeremy he needs to learn how to play. Well, you can play with Jeremy, but he's going to want to teach you how to play metal.
I do not want to play metal.
No. Actually, playing metal is, it's nothing anybody wants to listen to, but it's really a lot of fun making that much racket.
I'm sure it is fun to make that much racket, actually.
I've been really enjoying this Japanese pop artist, Japanese British, and she has a big metal single from her album, and she's reappropriating the sound of metal to be a conduit of her anger as an Asian woman in Britain.
Wow.
That's pretty much perfect then, isn't it? You know,
Yeah, it's a music for anger, and she feels a lot of anger for racism. So I thought that was a
Wow.
great reinterpretation.
What's her name?
Kim Dixon.
Her name is Rina Sawayama. I'll send you guys the video. It's
Yeah,
called
Oh, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
yeah, STFU.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, she's
Perfect.
well, it's like, you know, Courtney would say that your thing with metal is like it always sounds like somebody's yelling at
So I feel like somebody's always yelling at me.
you. It's like, yes, like stop it. Just, you know.
But there's some like I really Grace, do you know Slater Kinney?
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like that's close into that. Like, it's not metal, but it's
Thrashy.
thrashy enough, right?
Yeah.
But it's like ladies being thrashy, which I have a much easier time with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's because they don't have to go down to drop D or drop C.
That's probably what it is.
They can get enough grunge out of it higher in a higher register.
There is a
Yeah.
whole messenger thing for me too, where I think
Yeah.
yeah, it can really make it a different vibe.
Well, that's true too. Absolutely.
hmm
Well, this is fun.